Godfried, a British police officer in the West Yorkshire Metropolitan Police Force. Alan, born and raised in a working-class neighborhood near the moors, is married and the father of 2 children. He has been commended twice for his investigative work in cases of sudden and mysterious deaths. Alan is proud to be a policeman and proud of his accomplishments. His story began 14 years ago, when Alan was looking for 3 men suspected of brutally assaulting someone the night before.
Headquarters, this is PC Godfrey. I've located the 3 suspects outside a pub. It's called the Carpenter Arm. I'm going to take them into custody and send backup.
I was kicked in the groin area, as a result of which later on I did lose a testicle.
The police surgeon explained that Alan would require a long period of recuperation.
You're going to need a lot of rest.
He was both physically and psychologically devastated and was told he would no longer be able to have a normal sex life.
I was also told I would definitely have been sterile for the rest of my life. I would not be able to father children again.
Alan finally returned to active duty. 3 years later, he was called to the scene of a mysterious death.
Looks like we got a murder on our hands.
Right, I'll call it in.
What was strange about the guy was he was wearing a top coat, but he wasn't wearing a shirt. He was wearing a string vest, you know. His jacket had been fastened unevenly at the top here. His trousers and the fly was undone on the trousers. His shoes appeared that he hadn't put them on himself. They hadn't been tied properly.
At 10 a.m., the body was not there, according to the owner of the coal yard. An off-duty officer had been present at 1:30 p.m. and found nothing unusual. Later that afternoon, the body was discovered, and subsequent tests proved he had been dead for at least 8 hours. So the question remained, where had he died? And how did he get to the top of the coal pile?
This guy died of shock. Where the hell are these burn marks from?
There was a strange substance on the back of the dead man's neck, which the forensic pathologist proceeded to analyze.
The guy, although he died of a heart attack, the heart attack had been brought on by something that really, really terrified him.
The victim was identified as Zygmunt Adamski.
The coroner wanted the police to ascertain why this guy had turned up some 30 or 40 miles from his home, where he'd been for 6 days, where the burn marks had come from, more importantly, what was the substance that had been applied to the guy's wound at the back of the neck, because the substance could not be identified as anything known on Earth.
The police were further baffled. There were no footprints leading to where the body was found.
It's really important to remember this. The fact that the guy climbed a stack of coal, well, supposedly climbed a stack of coal, if he had got there under normal power, was suffering from a heart condition in inclement weather as it was, and to lie there on the top and just look up at the sky and die is ridiculous.
With the Adamski death still nagging at him, Alan encountered something even more extraordinary.
I was on patrol in my police car, and we'd been getting strange, unusual calls from members of the public about a herd of cows that kept appearing and disappearing on a local council estate. We went up there and had a look, and there was nothing. You know, there's no trace of these cows. There was no sign of them. You know, cows leave trademarks. We all know this. So it was rather unusual that these cows couldn't be found.
Headquarters, this is PC Alan Godfried. I'm going up to Council Estate to check on the cows. Over.
As I was approaching the council estate, I was going to come off the main road when I saw in front of me a large object that was blocking the road up ahead. I put my warning flashing lights on, the blue flashing lights on. My first reaction was that it was a double-decker bus that had gone skidded sideways, or whatever. There was something blocking the road. So I instinctively drove towards it. As I was approaching the object, it was a sight that really I wasn't expecting to see, you know. I mean, there was an object that was hovering. It wasn't actually on the ground. It was actually hovering over the ground, about 5 feet. This in itself, you know, is a bit strange to say the least.
Hello. This is PC Alan Godfried. I
tried the car radio, it wouldn't work. I tried my personal radio.
This is PC Alan Godfried.
Nobody would answer me on the radio. It was completely dead. I've got hovering in front of me about 25 yards is an object that really one only expects to see in such films as Third Encounters of a Close Encounters of a Third Kind, E.T. and things like this. I mean, this was totally unbelievable. It just didn't register with any of the training I've been given as a police officer. It became obvious to me that what I was looking at was a UFO. There was no emittance of noise from it, and there was certainly no heat coming from it. The trees that was lining the road were shaking violently, so whatever it was a force coming from it. Although at that time, while I was sat in the police car, I couldn't feel any vibration in the police car, but there was no way I was going to get out. I wasn't going to get out of the police car. I felt very secure in there. And then a very strange thing occurred. Suddenly, there was a jump in time. After I'd done the drawing, or my last conscious memory was of doing the drawing, I suddenly found myself another 20 or 30 yards up the road, driving the police car, and the object had gone.
Alan realized that 20 minutes had passed, and he could not remember what had happened. He turned the car around and went back to where he had seen the UFO.
I was a bit gobsmacked at this. It had been raining all night, so the road surface should really have been absolutely wet through. But where this object had been, the road surface was whirlpool dry.
Alan drove back to the town center to get 2 of his colleagues. The 3 of them returned to the location of the sighting.
So,
Where are the little green men, Alan?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
How come it's totally dry here and everything else is wet? Maybe Alan's really seen something?
So we went into the adjoining park, and the only way you can get into the park is over the bridge and through a locked gate, which is obviously it's open during the day, but during the hours of darkness, the gate's locked. So nothing can get into the park. We got in. We unlocked the gate because we have the keys to get into the park for obvious reasons.
What they discovered was a herd of cows that had mysteriously appeared in the center of the field. These were the missing cows that Alan had been looking for.
This is the herd of cows I've been looking for all night. We've been running around. And here they are.
How'd these cows get in here? There's no trail.
Now, this is rather strange, and this starts blowing your mind here, because I just seen something that a UFO, that I found absolutely totally unbelievable, and I wasn't expecting to see something like that. And another strange occurrence, the cows, you know. How did the cows get there? The only way they could have got there is somebody had gone, bonk, and dropped them there.
Although Alan's fellow officers did not take the incident seriously, an inspector reminded him that it was official procedure to report the incident to the divisional headquarters in Halifax.
The object was reported by 3 other police officers 12 miles from here, and 2 more in Lancashire County.
The teasing stopped. For the next 12 months, everything went back to normal.
Then, an investigative reporter realized that the PC Alan Godfried of the Adamski case was the PC Alan Godfried of the UFO case.
The reporter suggested Adamski was the victim of a UFO abduction. The story hit the front page of a national newspaper with Alan's the link between the 2 mysterious incidents. The spotlight was on Alan, and he and his family and superior officers were not at all happy about it. Whenever Alan testified in court, his credibility was ridiculed because of his UFO report. His superiors attempted to humiliate him. They wanted him to resign from the force. They even took his police car from him and replaced it with a bicycle. Meanwhile, a friend who had also experienced a UFO sighting convinced Alan to undergo hypnotic regression. The hope was to discover what had occurred during the missing 20 minutes.
This regression helped him.
Do you remember the night I tried to wake you up and couldn't?
What night, love?
That night I heard that same sound over our bed. I tried to wake Alan up, but he was in such a deep sleep I couldn't wake him. Finally, the noise went away. The next morning, Alan and I made love for the first time since he was beaten up. And then I became pregnant.
Well, all I want to know is how did my wife get pregnant if I'm unable to father children? I mean, maybe she's been fooling around, huh?
I don't know how it happened, Alan. Your condition has completely been reversed. This test shows you're fertile. Back to normal.
While many questions were raised, few were answered. The Adamski death remains unsolved. Alan Godfried is still unable to consciously remember the missing 20 minutes. Although Alan no longer serves in the police force he was so proud of, the thought persists that the visitors did serve some positive function in his life. He is extremely grateful to have recovered, and especially to have had another child.